I found her diary on a Thursday. Not hidden. Not locked. Just left open on the bathroom counter like a script she'd been rehearsing. The pages were filled with drafts, each one a different version of how she'd leave me. Some were angry. Some were cold. One even had stage directions, pause here. Let him beg. She'd been practicing her exit for months. And I had no idea. I stood there, staring at her handwriting, and something inside me didn't break, it crystallized. Because while she was rehearsing her grand finale in front of the mirror, perfecting her tone and her tears, I'd already been signing divorce papers in silence. Papers she didn't know existed. Papers I'd filed 2 weeks ago, the morning after I overheard her on the phone with him, laughing about how long she could keep me around. How I was useful until she wasn't. She thought she was writing the ending. But I'd already turned the last page. Now, as I stood in our apartment, apartment now, I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel grief. I felt something quieter. Colder. Like watching a play you've already seen, knowing the actress has no idea the curtain's about to drop. She wanted a performance. I gave her a signature. And when she finally got around to delivering her rehearsed goodbye, I was already gone. She used to leave me notes. Little yellow squares of paper that clung to the edge of the coffee maker like promises. Good morning, love. Don't forget you're amazing. Simple words. The kind that don't cost anything but somehow fill your chest with warmth. I'd peel them off carefully, fold them, and tuck them into my wallet. I kept every single one. By the end of our first year together, I had 43 notes pressed between receipts and old business cards. Proof that I was loved. That I mattered. That was back when she still saw me. We'd been together for 5 years, married for 3. She was an actress. Not the kind you'd recognize from billboards or streaming platforms, but the kind who poured her soul into cramped black box theaters with peeling paint and 12 people in the audience. She'd come home smelling like stage dust and cheap hairspray, eyes glowing, and I'd hold her like she'd just returned from war. You were incredible, I'd tell her. And I meant it. Every time. She had this way of transforming on stage. Even in roles that didn't matter, in productions that would close after 3 nights, she became something luminous. Something untouchable. I used to sit in the back row and watch her, thinking, how did I get this lucky, I supported her dream the only way I knew how. I worked double shifts at the firm, took on freelance projects I didn't want, skipped lunches to save money. Rent. Utilities. Her headshots. Acting classes. I didn't mind. Love wasn't supposed to be transactional. It was supposed to be unconditional. And I loved her unconditionally. Or maybe I just loved the version of her that used to leave notes. Because somewhere along the way, the notes stopped. The texts with heart emojis became one-word replies. Okay. Busy. Later. I told myself it was stress. She'd landed a new role, something bigger, she said. Something that could change everything. This is it, babe, she told me one night, her eyes bright in a way I hadn't seen in months. This could be my big break. I believed her. I always believed her. Rehearsals ran late. She'd come home at midnight, sometimes 1 in the morning, smelling like something expensive and unfamiliar. A cologne I didn't recognize. A perfume that wasn't hers. I'd be half asleep on the couch, waiting, and she'd kiss my forehead absently, like I was a dog she'd forgotten to feed. How was rehearsal? I'd ask. Exhausting, she'd say, already walking toward the bedroom. And I'd sit there in the dark, feeling like a shadow. The apartment grew quieter. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, the hollow kind. The kind that makes you notice how much space exists between 2 people. She stopped asking about my day. Stopped touching me unless it was performative, a hand on my shoulder when her parents called, a kiss on the cheek when we were out with friends. In private, I was invisible. At night, I'd lie next to her and listen to her breathe. She'd fall asleep within minutes, her back turned to me, and I'd stare at the ceiling wondering when we'd become strangers. Wondering if she even noticed. I told myself it was temporary. That every relationship had seasons. That love required patience, trust, sacrifice. But love also required presence. And she was already gone. I just didn't realize I was living with a ghost until I found the diary. It was a Thursday. The kind of ordinary, unremarkable day that changes everything. I'd come home from work, exhausted, my mind full of deadlines and half-finished emails. She was out, another late rehearsal. The apartment was empty, silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. I went into the bathroom to grab my watch. I'd left it on the counter that morning, next to the sink. And there it was. A leather-bound journal. Elegant. Expensive. The kind of thing she'd bought herself after booking a commercial last year, a small victory she'd celebrated like an Oscar win. It was open. I wasn't trying to snoop. I wasn't trying to invade her privacy. But the page was asterisk right there asterisk, and the ink was still wet, and my eyes caught the words before my brain could tell me to look away. Asterisk, version 7, I've been unhappy for a long time. You'll understand eventually. Asterisk. My hands went cold. I stared at the sentence, reading it over and over, trying to make sense of it. Asterisk version 7. Asterisk like it was a script. Like she was workshopping the best way to break my heart. I should have closed it. Should have walked away. But I didn't. I flipped back a page. Then another. And another. Each one was a draft. A different version of the same speech. The same ending. Asterisk version 4, I need space to find myself. This isn't about you. Asterisk. Asterisk version 5, we've grown apart. I think we both know it. Asterisk. Asterisk version 6, I've tried to make this work, but I can't keep pretending. Asterisk. Some versions made me the villain, too passive, too boring, too asterisk safe. Asterisk others painted her as the tragic heroine, bravely walking away from a loveless marriage. One even had a line about how she'd given it her all. I read every single one. My chest felt tight. My vision blurred at the edges. And then I saw the date at the top of the first page. Asterisk 4 months ago. Asterisk. For months. She'd been planning this for asterisk 4 months. Asterisk rehearsing it like a role. Perfecting her delivery. Deciding which version of the truth would hurt me just enough to make her look noble. I stood there, holding the diary, and something inside me didn't shatter, it crystallized. Hardened. Turned into something cold and unbreakable. I closed the diary carefully. Put it back exactly where I'd found it, the page open to asterisk version 7. Asterisk. And I walked out of the bathroom like I'd seen nothing. Because I hadn't just seen words on a page. I'd seen the truth. She didn't love me anymore. Maybe she never had. Maybe I'd been a placeholder all along, a safety net while she figured out what she really wanted. And now she was ready to let go. But she wanted to do it asterisk perfectly. Asterisk she wanted the right words, the right tone, the right amount of emotion to make herself feel justified. I went into the kitchen. Poured myself a glass of water. Drank it slowly. Outside, the sky was turning dark. Rain clouds gathered on the horizon, low and heavy. I thought about all the notes she used to leave me. All the times I'd believed I was loved. And I realized I'd been living in a performance this whole time. She was always an actress. I was just too blind to see I'd become her audience. The diary haunted me. Not because I'd read it, but because I couldn't asterisk stop asterisk thinking about it. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her handwriting. Neat. Controlled. The way she looped her Ys and crossed her Ts with precision. The same handwriting that used to fill love letters and birthday cards. Now it was drafting my execution. I didn't confront her. I didn't ask questions. I moved through the next few days like a ghost in my own life, watching her from a distance, studying her the way you'd study a stranger. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did, and she just didn't care. She kept the diary close. I'd see it sometimes, tucked into her bag, sitting on the nightstand, left open on the kitchen counter while she made coffee. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. Why would she? I was supposed to be the oblivious husband. The one who didn't ask questions. Asterisk, he's too sweet, asterisk she'd said on the phone. Asterisk, it's honestly kind of sad. Asterisk. 3 days after I found the diary, I saw it again. She'd left it in the living room this time, on the arm of the couch. I was coming out of the bedroom, still half asleep, and there it was, open to a fresh page. Asterisk, version 9, I've been carrying this marriage alone. I can't do it anymore. Asterisk. I stopped. Stared. Asterisk carrying this marriage alone. Asterisk. I almost laughed. It was so absurd it felt like satire. I'd worked myself into exhaustion to support her dream. I'd paid for everything, rent, groceries, her acting classes, her headshots, the premium subscription to that casting site she swore she needed. I'd sat through every performance, every showcase, every audition she bombed and came home crying about. I'd held her. Told her she was talented. Told her it was only a matter of time. And now I was the dead weight. I picked up the diary. My hands were steady. Calmer than I expected. I flipped back through the pages, reading the evolution of her lies. Asterisk, version 1, I don't think we're compatible anymore. Asterisk. Asterisk, version 3, I need to focus on my career right now. Asterisk. Asterisk, version 6, you deserve someone who can love you the way you need. Asterisk. She'd tried every angle. Every narrative. She was workshopping my heartbreak like it was an audition monologue, testing different emotional beats to see which one landed best. And the worst part? She was getting better at it. By asterisk version 9, asterisk she'd found her rhythm. The wording was sharper. More confident. She'd figured out how to make herself the victim and me the obstacle. How to frame her betrayal as self-care. I wondered if she practiced it in front of the mirror. I wondered if she cried on cue. I set the diary down carefully, exactly where I'd found it, and walked into the kitchen. My hands were shaking now, not from sadness, but from something else. Something sharper. Anger? Maybe. But it was cold. Controlled. I made coffee. Black. No sugar. I stood at the counter and stared out the window at the grey morning sky, and I thought about how long I'd been making excuses for her. Asterisk she's stressed. She's tired. She's chasing a dream. Asterisk. But dreams don't justify cruelty. And she'd been cruel in the quietest way possible. Behind me, I heard the shower turn on. She was up. Getting ready for another rehearsal. Another late night. I poured a second cup of coffee and left it on the counter for her. Old habits. When she came out 20 minutes later, hair wet, smelling like lavender shampoo, she smiled at me. Morning, babe. Morning, I said. She picked up the coffee, took a sip, and sighed contentedly. You're the best. I didn't respond. She grabbed her bag, the one with the diary tucked inside, and kissed me on the cheek. A quick, meaningless peck. I'll be home late again tonight, she said. Don't wait up. I won't. She paused, just for a second, like she'd heard something off in my tone. But then she shrugged and walked out the door. The apartment went silent. I stood there, holding my coffee, staring at the space where she'd been. And I made a decision. I wasn't going to wait for her to deliver her perfectly rehearsed goodbye. I wasn't going to sit there like an obedient audience member while she performed her exit. If she wanted a script, fine. But I was going to write the ending. I grabbed my phone and searched for divorce lawyers in the area. I didn't hesitate. Didn't second guess. I found one with good reviews, sharp, professional, no nonsense. A woman named Ms. Brennan. I called and made an appointment for the next afternoon. When the receptionist asked why I needed a consultation, I said, divorce. Uncontested. Does your spouse know? She asked. Not yet. There was a pause. Then, we'll see you tomorrow at 2. I hung up. And for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. That night, she came home at midnight. I was already in bed, pretending to sleep. She slipped in beside me, smelling like that same expensive cologne, and I kept my eyes closed, my breathing steady. She fell asleep within minutes. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, and I thought about the diary. About all the versions of the truth she'd written. But there was one version she hadn't considered. The one where I left first. 2 weeks before I found the diary, I came home early. It was a Wednesday. My manager had sent everyone home after a server crash wiped out half the day's work. There was nothing to do but wait for IT to fix it, so I left the office at 3 in the afternoon, something I hadn't done in months. I remember feeling almost giddy about it. I thought maybe I'd surprise her. Pick up takeout from that Thai place she loved. We could watch a movie, talk, pretend we were still the couple we used to be. I drove home with the windows down, the late afternoon sun warm on my arm, and for a moment, I let myself believe things could get better. I was so stupid. When I got to the apartment, I heard her voice before I even opened the door. She was laughing. Not the polite, performative laugh she used around my friends or her parents. This was different. Light. Genuine. The kind of laugh that used to be reserved for me. I froze, key halfway in the lock. The door was slightly ajar. She must have left it open after coming in. I pushed it gently, stepping inside, and the sound grew clearer. She was on the balcony. The sliding door was half open, and her voice drifted through the gap like smoke. "No, he doesn't know," she said. I stopped in the hallway. My heartbeat was suddenly very loud in my ears. Her voice was warm. Easy. The way it used to sound when she talked to me. "He's too sweet to ask questions," she continued. "It's honestly kind of sad." The air in my lungs turned to ice. I should have walked away. Should have made noise, let her know I was there. But I didn't. I stood in the hallway, frozen, listening to my wife talk about me like I was a joke. I know," she said, her tone shifting, playful now, almost conspiratorial. "I'll do it soon. I just need to time it right. He's been covering rent while I focus on my career. I can't exactly leave before I'm stable, you know." There was a pause. She was listening to whoever was on the other end. Then she laughed again. That same bright, easy laugh. "He'll be fine," she said. "He always is. He'll probably cry for a week and then move on. Men like him always do." Something inside me didn't break, it went numb. I stood there, staring at the back of her head through the gap in the sliding door. She was leaning against the railing, phone pressed to her ear, completely unaware that I was 10 feet away, hearing every word. "I just need to figure out the right way to say it," she went on. "I don't want to be cruel, you know? He deserves better than that. He deserves better. The irony was suffocating. She thought she was being kind. Thoughtful. She thought she was sparing my feelings by waiting for the right time to destroy me. But really, she was just keeping me around until I stopped being useful. I took a step back. Then another. I moved carefully, quietly, until I was out of the apartment, back in the hallway, the door clicking shut behind me. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the number on the door. For 12. Our apartment. Our home. It didn't feel like mine anymore. I walked back to my car in a daze. Got in. Sat there with my hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't feel anything except a cold, crystalline clarity. She didn't love me. Maybe she never had. And whatever we'd been building together, it was already gone. I'd just been too blind to see it. I pulled out my phone and searched for divorce lawyers. I didn't hesitate. Didn't overthink it. I found a firm with good reviews, a woman named Ms. Brennan who specialized in quick, clean separations. I called and made an appointment. "Reason for consultation?" the receptionist asked. "Divorce. Is your spouse aware?" "No." "I see. We'll see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. I hung up. And I sat there in the parking lot, watching the sun dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the pavement. My phone buzzed. A text from her. "Hey babe, rehearsal's running late again. Don't wait up. Love you." I stared at the words. Love you. 2 words that used to mean everything. Now they felt like a script. A line she delivered out of habit, without thinking, without meaning. I deleted the text. And I drove away. I didn't go back to the apartment that night. I checked into a cheap hotel on the edge of town, sat on the bed, and stared at the wall until my eyes burned. I thought about all the nights I'd stayed awake, listening to her practice lines for auditions. The way she'd pace the living room, script in hand, asking me to read the other parts so she could rehearse. I'd always said yes. I'd always supported her. And the whole time, she'd been practicing how to leave me. The next day, I went to Ms. Brennan's office. I signed the papers. And I started the process of erasing myself from her life before she even knew I was gone. Ms. Brennan's office was on the 3rd floor of a brick building downtown, tucked between a coffee shop and a tax attorney's office. The waiting room was sterile, gray walls, black leather chairs, a single piece of abstract art that looked like someone had spilled ink on a canvas and called it emotion. I sat there for 10 minutes, hands folded in my lap, staring at the art, and I felt nothing. "Mr. Harper?" I looked up. A woman stood in the doorway, mid-40s, sharp suit, dark hair pulled into a tight bun. She had the kind of face that didn't smile unless it was strategic. "Ms. Brennan?" She nodded. "Come on back." I followed her into a small office. Clean desk. Organized files. A window overlooking the street below. She gestured to a chair, and I sat at it. She didn't waste time. "So," she said, pulling a legal pad from her desk drawer. You're looking to file for divorce. Yes. How long have you been married? 3 years. Any children? No. Property? Joint assets? An apartment. Leases in both our names. No major assets. Separate bank accounts. She made a few notes, her pen scratching across the paper in quick, efficient strokes. Does your spouse know you're filing? No. She looked up at me then, her expression neutral but her eyes sharp. Assessing. Are you planning to tell her before we file? No. A pause. Any particular reason? I hesitated. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because saying it out loud felt like pulling a knife out of my chest. She's been planning to leave me for months, I said finally. I found her diary. She's been writing drafts of her breakup speech. Rehearsing it. I'm not going to wait around for her to deliver it. Ms. Brennan didn't react. Didn't flinch. She just nodded, like this was the most normal thing in the world. Understood, she said. Do you want this to be contested or uncontested? Uncontested. I don't want a fight. I just want it over. Good. That'll make things faster. She flipped to a new page. We'll file the petition this week. She'll be served within 10 business days. After that, she has 30 days to respond. If she doesn't contest, we can finalize everything in about 60 to 90 days. 60 to 90 days. 3 months, and I'd be free. What do I need to do? I asked. Sign where I tell you to sign. Initial where I tell you to initial. The rest, I handle. She pulled a stack of documents from a folder and slid them across the desk. I stared at them. The top page was titled Petition for Dissolution of Marriage. Dissolution. Such a clinical word for the end of everything. I picked up the pen she offered. My hand didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I felt eerily calm. Like I'd been holding my breath for months and was finally exhaling. I signed where she pointed. Initialed in the margins. Page after page, my name in black ink, sealing the end of a marriage I'd thought would last forever. When I finished, Ms. Brennan collected the papers, tapped them into a neat stack, and tucked them back into the folder. These will be filed within the week, she said. You'll receive a copy of the filed petition via email. She'll be served at the address on file, your apartment, correct? Yes. Do you plan to be there when she's served? No. She nodded. Smart. Less drama that way. I stood to leave, and she walked me to the door. Mr. Harper, she said, her tone softer now, just barely. I've handled a lot of these. And I can tell you, the ones who wait around hoping things will get better? They're the ones who suffer the most. You're doing the right thing. I nodded. Thank you. I walked out of the office and down the stairs, out into the bright afternoon sun. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, staring at the steering wheel, replaying everything in my head. I thought about the first time I'd told her I loved her. We were sitting on the couch in her old apartment, watching some terrible movie neither of us cared about, and she'd leaned her head on my shoulder and said, I feel safe with you. I kissed the top of her head and whispered, I love you. She'd smiled. Said it back. I thought about our wedding day. Small ceremony, just close friends and family. She'd worn a simple white dress, and when she looked at me during the vows, her eyes were wet with tears. I'd believed every word she said. I promise to love you, in good times and bad, for as long as we both shall live. But promises are just words. And words are easy to break. I finally started the car and drove home. When I walked into the apartment, she was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She looked up and smiled, bright, easy, like nothing was wrong. Hey, babe. How was your day? Fine, I said. And I meant it. Because for the first time in months, I wasn't pretending anymore. I'd already started letting go. The next 2 weeks were the strangest of my life. I moved through the apartment like a ghost, present but not really there. I cooked dinner. Did the dishes. Asked about her auditions. I played the role of the dutiful husband so well that she didn't notice anything had changed. Or maybe she did, and she just didn't care. She kept the diary close. I'd see it sometimes, on the nightstand when I woke up, tucked into her bag when she left for rehearsals, open on the kitchen counter while she made coffee. She was up to version 11 now. I didn't read it anymore. I didn't need to. I already knew how the story ended. Or at least, I knew how she thought it would end. She didn't know I'd already rewritten the script. At night, we'd lie in bed together, inches apart but miles away. She'd fall asleep within minutes, her back turned to me, and I'd stare at the ceiling in the dark, listening to her breathe. I tried to remember the last time we'd touched. Not the performative touches, the hand on my shoulder when her parents called, the kiss on the cheek when we were out with friends, but the real ones. The kind that meant something. I couldn't remember. Maybe it had been months. Maybe longer. I wondered if she'd noticed. If she cared. Probably not. During the day, I went to work, sat through meetings, answered emails, and pretended everything was normal. My coworkers didn't notice anything different. Why would they? I'd always been good at hiding. But inside, I was counting down. 10 days until she'd be served. 9. 8. I imagined the moment over and over. The knock on the door. The envelope. Her face when she opened it and saw the words petition for dissolution of marriage at the top of the page. I didn't want to be there when it happened. I didn't want to see her shock, her anger, her tears, real or performed. I just wanted it over. On the 7th day, I started packing. Not everything. Just the essentials. Clothes. Toiletries. My laptop. A few books. I packed them into a duffel bag and hid it in the back of my car, parked in the building's garage. She didn't notice. She was too busy rehearsing. I'd hear her sometimes, late at night, pacing the living room, muttering to herself. Practicing her lines. Perfecting her tone. Asterisk, I've been unhappy for a long time. Asterisk. Asterisk, this isn't about you. Asterisk. Asterisk, I need to focus on myself. Asterisk. She was so close. So ready. But she didn't know the curtain was about to drop without her. On the 10th day, I came home from work to find her in the bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at her phone. She looked up when I walked in. "Hey," she said. Her voice was soft. Almost tentative. "Hey. Can we talk?" My heart stopped. This is it, I thought. Asterisk, she's going to do it. She's going to deliver her speech, asterisk. I sat down in the chair across from her, waiting. She took a breath. Looked down at her hands. "I've been thinking," she said slowly. "About us. About where we're going." I didn't say anything. I just feel like, I don't know. Like we're stuck. Like we're not moving forward. She paused, like she was waiting for me to argue. To beg her to stay. I didn't. "I think maybe we need to talk about what we both want," she continued. "Because I'm not sure we're on the same page anymore." I looked at her, really looked. And I saw it. The performance. The careful phrasing. The way she tilted her head just slightly, her expression somewhere between sad and earnest. She was testing the waters. Seeing how I'd react. "What do you want?" I asked quietly. She hesitated. "I don't know yet. I think I need space to figure it out." Space. The universal code for I'm leaving, but I want you to think it's mutual. I nodded. "Okay." She blinked. "Okay? Yeah. If you need space, take it." She looked confused. Like I'd skipped a line in her script. You're not upset? Would it change anything if I was?" She didn't answer. I stood up. "I'm going to take a walk." "Now?" "Yeah." I grabbed my jacket and left before she could say anything else. I walked for an hour, aimlessly, through streets I didn't recognize, and I felt lighter with every step. She thought she was in control. She thought she was the one calling the shots. But she had no idea the game was already over. On the 13th day, I came home to an empty apartment. She'd left a note on the counter, scrawled on the back of a receipt. Asterisk, out with friends. Don't wait up. Asterisk. I stared at it for a long moment. Then I crumpled it and threw it in the trash. I went into the bedroom, grabbed the duffel bag I'd hidden in the closet, and added a few more things. My charger. A framed photo of my parents. The watch my grandfather had given me. I left everything else. The furniture. The dishes. The coffee maker with the chip on the handle. All the things we'd bought together, back when I thought, together, meant something. I took one last look around the apartment. It didn't feel like home anymore. Maybe it never had. I left my keys on the counter, next to where her note had been. And I walked out. I didn't leave a note. I didn't need to. She'd get her message soon enough. I stayed at my friend Marcus's place that night. He didn't ask questions. Just handed me a beer, pointed to the couch, and said, "Stay as long as you need." I didn't sleep. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, my phone face down on the coffee table, waiting. Ms. Brennan had said the papers would be served within 10 business days. Today was day 14. It could happen anytime now. I wondered how it would go. If she'd answer the door herself, or if she'd ignore the knock and let it slip under the door. I wondered if she'd read it right away or set it aside, assuming it was junk mail. I wondered if she'd cry. Probably. She was good at that. Around 8 a.m., I heard my phone buzz. Then again. And again. By the time I picked it up, I had 17 missed calls and 23 texts. All from her. I didn't open them. I didn't need to. I could imagine what they said. Shock. Anger. Confusion. Asterisk, how could you do this? Asterisk. Asterisk, we need to talk. Asterisk. Asterisk, this is insane. Asterisk. I set the phone back down and went to make coffee. Marcus came out of his room an hour later, rubbing his eyes. "You good?" he asked. "Yeah." He glanced at my phone, still lighting up on the table. "She know?" "She does now." He nodded. Poured himself a cup of coffee. "You want to talk about it?" "Not really." "Cool." That was the thing about Marcus. He didn't pry. Didn't try to fix things. He just existed in the same space as you, letting you breathe. Around noon, my phone rang again. I looked at the screen. Her name. Her photo, one I'd taken 2 years ago, back when she still smiled at me like I mattered. I hesitated. Then I answered. "What the asterisk hell asterisk is this?" she screamed before I could say a word. Her voice was sharp, raw, shaking with fury. "Divorce papers? Are you asterisk serious asterisk right now?" "Yes." "You didn't even asterisk talk asterisk to me. You didn't even." "Neither did you." Silence. I heard her breathing on the other end. Fast. Uneven. "What are you talking about?" she said finally, her tone shifting, lower now, defensive. "I found your diary." The line went dead quiet. You went through my things. You left it open. That was asterisk private asterisk. So was our marriage." She didn't have an answer for that. I heard her swallow. Heard the faint rustle of movement, like she was pacing. "You don't understand," she said quietly. "Those were just thoughts. I wasn't actually going to." "Yes, you were. You don't know that." "I heard you on the phone," I said. 2 weeks ago. I came home early, and I heard you talking to him." Another silence. Longer this time. "Who?" she whispered. "Does it matter?" She didn't answer. "You said I was too sweet to ask questions," I continued, my voice calm, steady. "That I'd be fine. That men like me always move on." I heard her breath hitch. "I wasn't. You were using me," I said. "And when you were done, you were going to leave. You just wanted to make sure you had the perfect speech first. So you wouldn't look like the bad guy. That's not." "It is." She started crying then. Soft, choked sobs that might have broken me a month ago. But not anymore. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean." "Yes, you did." "Please," she said, her voice cracking. "Can we just talk? In person? I can explain." "There's nothing to explain. Please." I closed my eyes. Took a breath. "I'll send someone for my stuff," I said. "Sign the papers. It'll be easier for both of us." "Don't do this," she begged. "Please. I love you." I hung up. And for the first time in weeks, I let myself breathe. My hands were shaking. My chest felt tight. But underneath it all, I felt something else. Relief. I looked up. Marcus was standing in the doorway, arms crossed, watching me. "You good?" he asked again. I nodded. "Yeah," I said. "I think I am." She didn't sign right away. For the next 2 weeks, she tried everything. She called. Texted. Left voicemails that started angry and ended desperate. Asterisk, "We need to talk." Asterisk. Asterisk, "You're being ridiculous." Asterisk. Asterisk, "I didn't mean it like that." Asterisk. Asterisk, "Please. Just give me a chance to explain." Asterisk. I didn't respond. Ms. Brennan handled everything. Clean. Professional. No emotion. Just paperwork and deadlines and clinical language that turned the end of my marriage into a series of signatures and notarized documents. She tried to negotiate. Wanted to meet in person. Wanted to talk it through. Ms. Brennan shut it down every time. Your client has made his position clear, she'd say in emails I was CC'd on. Unless you're prepared to sign, there's nothing to discuss. A month later, she finally signed. No drama. No grand confrontation. Just a scanned PDF sent to Ms. Brennan's office, and it was over. I moved into a small apartment across town. 1 bedroom. Quiet. It had a window that looked out over a park, and in the mornings, I'd sit there with coffee and watch the light filter through the trees. It was peaceful. For the first time in years, I felt like I could think clearly. Like I could breathe without something pressing down on my chest. I didn't check her social media. Didn't ask mutual friends about her. I heard things, though. Through the grapevine. Whispers that she'd moved in with him, the guy from the phone call. That her big break never came. That she was still doing local theater, still waiting tables between auditions. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel anything. I'd already mourned her. Already let her go. The legal ending was just paperwork. The real ending had happened the day I found her diary. I started running in the mornings. Something I hadn't done in years. I'd put on my sneakers, step out into the cool air, and just move. No destination. No goal. Just movement. It felt good. I started cooking again. Real meals. Not just reheated leftovers or takeout. I'd go to the farmer's market on Saturdays, pick out fresh vegetables, try new recipes. I joined a book club. Met new people. Had conversations that didn't feel like walking on eggshells. Slowly, quietly, I started building a life that was mine. One evening, about 2 months after the divorce was finalized, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't open it. But something made me pause. I clicked on the message. Asterisk, I'm sorry. Asterisk. 2 words. No context. No explanation. I stared at it for a long time. I thought about replying. Thought about all the things I could say. It's too late. Asterisk, you're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry you got caught, asterisk. I don't forgive you. But in the end, I didn't say anything. I just deleted the message. And I moved on. Because that's the thing about closure. You don't always get it from the other person. Sometimes, you have to give it to yourself. I put my phone down, went to the window, and looked out at the park. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. And I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was just free. A year later, I ran into her at a coffee shop. It was one of those coincidences that feel like the universe testing you. I'd stopped in on my way to meet a friend, ordered my usual, and turned around. And there she was. Sitting at a small table near the window, staring at her phone. She looked different. Thinner. Tired. Her hair was shorter, and she wasn't wearing makeup. There was something smaller about her, like she'd folded in on herself. She glanced up, and our eyes met. She froze. For a second, I thought about pretending I hadn't seen her. About walking out and letting the moment disappear. But I didn't. I nodded politely and kept walking toward the door. Wait, she called. I stopped. Turned. She stood up, clutching her phone like a lifeline. She hesitated. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I looked at her. Really looked. Her eyes were red-rimmed. Her hands were shaking. She looked like she'd been carrying something heavy for a long time. And I realized something. She wasn't sorry for what she'd done. She was sorry she got caught. Sorry that her plan didn't work out the way she'd written it. Sorry that I'd left first. Thank you, I said quietly. Not because I meant it. But because I was done. She opened her mouth, like she wanted to say more, but I shook my head. Take care of yourself, I said. And I walked out. The sunlight hit me as I stepped onto the sidewalk, warm and bright, and I took a breath. A real one. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel heavy. Didn't feel haunted. I felt light. She'd spent months rehearsing her goodbye. Perfecting it. Making sure it sounded right. But I'd already written mine. And mine didn't need an audience. I got into my car, drove to meet my friend, and didn't look back. Because the story wasn't about her anymore. It was about me. And I was finally ready to write the next chapter.